Hey guys, Philosopher here, and today I've got my Dark Hunters infographic. I know a lot of you have been asking me about this because you're thinking about upgrading them for the Scourge event. This is once again something I did move it up a little bit in the queue, but it's frankly something that a lot of work has gone into. I've played pretty extensively with the team in War, and I've gone to several other players who I respect, and I've gotten their input on this infographic. And so we're going to go through the T4s today, ISO, everything, who's the best fifth, all that sort of stuff. We're going to talk about all of that today. I will just say, though, if you are doing this for the event, here's my Dark Hunters. But to give you a sense, you remember my Web Warriors used to be, or have been until recently, Gear Tier 14. I brought them from Gear Tier 14 up to 16 and bought 6 reds on Scarlet Spider and Spider Punk. So that gives you a sense that this is really the main team I would invest in for Scourge. But if you want to get a high score, at a certain point it becomes very hard to do without having a second team for Node 10. So, all right, let's talk about the Dark Hunter, and that's, by the way, for the Pestilence Scourge event. So let's talk about the Dark Hunter team here. And I'm going to start with T4s. All right, now one thing I'm just going to say before I get into this, and now this infographic, by the way, is linked below. It's always, all my infographics are on my Discord as well, which is also linked below. But I will just say when I go through this that while you can use the Dark Hunters and Dark Hunter team in Scourge, or obviously in other game modes, Blitz, whatever, this is a war offense team, and so the T4s are based upon their role in war offense. So I'm assuming that you want to use them on war offense. Some of these T4s are pretty war specific. All right, so let's go here to the essential T4s. The most essential T4, in my opinion, is the Morbius passive, and that's really because if you don't have this passive, you cannot use this team to counter Heroes for Hire. So right now, the best use of this team is to counter Heroes for Hire in War when they're on War defense. And so look at this passive on Morbius. On War offense, on spawn, if he has the full Dark Hunter team, apply blind to the 4 highest damage city hero enemies. So this is what enables the team to survive this massive barrage of damage, incoming damage from the Heroes for Hire team at the beginning. As you probably know, if you don't have a team like this, or another team that can survive an Infinity Watch Weapon X, the team just crumbles right before they can even take a single turn against Heroes for Hire. This is what prevents that. Some people actually are building their Luke Cage higher than their Iron Fist to try to make it so that this doesn't completely work, which is clever if you haven't already built your Heroes for Hire, but this does an amazing job of getting the team to function, and you basically cannot use this team against Heroes for Hire otherwise. So I just think this is about as essential as it gets. The team literally just doesn't work for its intended purpose if you do not have this T4. All right, the next most essential T4, in my opinion, is Ghost Rider's passive, and that's an interesting one because it's one of these, a lot of times there's these T4s that have 20% max health for the team or some other percentage of max health, and that's what they give. This gives some other stuff too. It gives, basically when another member of the team dies, Ghost Rider gets, he attacks the enemy that killed that character for 500% damage. So it goes from 400 to 500% damage. Instead of generating 2 ability energy for himself, he generates 3. So that's nice. Those are like cherries on top. But the main thing is 20% max health for the team, which is important. This team needs that survivability to get to the point when you can use, for example, the Dr. Voodoo Ultimate. So I just think for this team, the max health is quite important. All right, the next most essential T4 for this team, in my opinion, is the Dr. Voodoo Ultimate. This, I just mentioned this. This to me is such a key move for this team. Instead of stealing 10% health from all enemies, he steals 20% health, which is absolutely huge. That's just a big move, a kind of a table-turning move for this team. And then instead of clearing 3 negative effects from the team, he clears all negative effects from the team. That really says something as well. I mean, I think this team often gets bogged down with debuffs, and so until this is the only way. It's a very long cooldown. This is the only way that this team really can handle debuffs, in my opinion. I think you really need this. It's just too important. I would not, if you're not going to be able to afford T4s like this, you shouldn't build the team. It's unless you're just using it purely as a sack team or something like that. This is too important to this particular team that does not otherwise have a good cleanse or a lot of sustain. This is one way of doing that. All right. Next, we have the Morbius Ultimate. The Morbius Ultimate is another one that really goes to the key purpose that this team exists. So this is countering Heroes for Hire. This is its main purpose right now in war. So here, basically, if you have the full team, you apply Disrupted. He applies Disrupted with the T4 to the Hero City primary target. That is intended to be Luke Cage, but often now people are putting Luke Cage in the middle to screw this up. But whatever character you get Disrupted on, it's obviously better if it's Luke Cage, but it's still nice to prevent any Heroes from Hire member from getting, death proofs and deflux and whatever else they might get. So to me, this is really good. It also provides 60% damage to the entire team, and he has a huge damage stat and is quite a damager. So to me, this is an absolute no-brainer as well. You kind of just have to. This is a team that requires a lot of investment to just barely do what it's supposed to do. I mean, it does fine. I've been using it pretty consistently to counter Heroes for Hire. Once you understand the fight, I think it's not that hard to do, no matter how it's positioned. But it needs a heavy investment. You just need these T4s in order to get it done. In my opinion, this is a team that requires T4s for sure. Okay, next one we have here on the list is the Dr. Voodoo special. This is really important, and this is one that I think when you play the team where you see this, the ultimate has got a super long cooldown, 8-turn cooldown. He does basic a decent amount, okay, which is fine, but this is such a great move, and it's every third turn, so you're going to be doing this quite a bit, and it's for a turn 1 ability block. So adding ability block to this move, which does a whole slew of other things, it's such a key move for him, is just a no-brainer to me. You obviously want ability block if you can get it. It's such an important thing in so many different matches, right? No question. All right, the next one on this list is the Morbius special. I do think that there is a bit of a drop down here, but not much, because if you really want to be able to do damage with this team, you need abilities like this one. And here, this one I think is really better than you might think. So, it's without the T4, you get 3 bleed on the primary target and 2 bleed on the secondary targets. This increases the bleed on the secondary targets to give you 3 bleeds instead of 2. But then whenever you put a T4 on an ability that has bleed on it, it increases the damage multiplier. So essentially, in addition to getting that additional bleed on the sides, you're increasing the damage of all 3 bleeds on the primary target and on both secondary targets. So 9 bleeds have their damage increased by this one. It's just so much damage that you pretty much need it. You absolutely need this team to wreck the enemy and get their health down quickly. The way that this team beats Heroes for Hire is essentially getting them under 50% health with trauma and heal block on them, which means that their charges just fade, just get eaten up. And so you need a character like this one to just quickly melt their health away and get them under the 50%. And this is an ability that does that. All right, so the next one on the list, as you can see at the bottom there, is the Ghost Rider special. And it's very similar in this respect, is that in addition to giving a bleed for 2 turns on the primary target, this also, you've also got, this is a bleed move that not only puts bleed on the primary target, but also on the adjacent target. So by increasing the damage multiplier on the bleed, you're getting more damage on both the primary and secondary targets in the bleed. So to me, that's a no-brainer as well. This is a lot of your damage output. Here is the Morbius and Ghost Rider, and you just need to get those bleeds up. Okay, next one on the list is the Voodoo passive. All right. So let's go here and just take a look at that. So Dr. Voodoo passive, I think, is really nice. And I really considered whether or not this one could drop down to the nice to haves, but I just think it is too important. This one not only gives 10% crit chance, but when this character drops below 50% max health, he gains death proof up to a maximum of 5. And the death proof for him is actually really nice. When he gets death proof, he gets more speed. And I just think having more survivability and more speed on this character is really important. Dr. Voodoo is just so key to this team. He's the only real sustain that this team has, or the main source, by far the most important source of sustain. I'll put it that way. And so I just think you need it. All right, and then the last one that I have that is absolutely essential in my view is the Morbius basic, and it's just because Morbius. I have him as a striker. This is just going to be his ISO attack as well. And, on war offense, this attack applies 2 bleed. So this is going to increase the damage multiplier on the bleeds. And if the primary target has bleed, and most of the time it will, because he's putting them on all over the place, him and Ghost Rider, he steals, instead of 5% health, 10% health. So this gives 30% straight damage, an additional 5% health stolen from the primary target, and increases the damage multiplier on the 2 bleeds. So to me, that's just too good, and you just need his damage too much to pass this up if you want to build this team. All right, so now we're in the nice to have categories, and a lot. Elsa starts to come up here, and she has some really nice T4s, but I do have them, and you'll see I actually have done a number of them myself, but I definitely consider them more or less nice to have. Okay. So, first of all, getting additional damage here. This is on the out of turn damage. So what she does here is, so here, for example, on a miss or ally miss or an enemy dodge, she attacks the target for quite a bit of damage. This can be really good against certain teams that rely on dodging, for example, as their damage mitigation. And here it goes from 220 to 270. So it's nice to have. The accuracy is also useful. It just helps her if, for example, she gets blinded or something like that, she still has a chance to hit. So, like I said, this to me is the definition of very nice to have. Okay. Next one on here is a underrated one, but I just could not bring it higher on the list. And this is the Elsa basic. So this is an additional 40%, but she bonus attacks 5 times. So this is 6 times 40, an additional 240% piercing, which is a lot. Piercing ignores enemy armor, so that's really good. So this is a lot more damage than you might think. It's to me the definition of a nice to have. It's very nice to have. And the next one here is the Elsa Ultimate, also quite good. This is just a lot of damage. She's gaining offense up, and she's doing. This is characters killed by this attack can't be revived. The attack can't be blocked. It's really nice. So there's reasons why you want to have this one hit hard, okay? Because you'd love to be able to just use this particularly certain targets to knock somebody out or whatever. But it's additional damage, so it's 30% damage plus 30% damage per ally. So let's say that's 3 or 4. Okay, so that's either going to be an additional 90 or 120. So it's either going to be 120% or 150% additional damage. To me, that's nice to have, but it's just straight damage, but it's very nice to have on a damaging character. All right, the next one on this list is one that I think in the past people were, more excited about when he first came out. For example, this was an exciting T4 for people, and this is the T4 on the Ghost Rider Ultimate. This used to be a super move. It's still very good. This is a move where he, can, for example, if he's charged, he gets drained and he'll get a lot of health and so forth. But he does a bunch of damage, 430% piercing is a lot of damage, and go up to 500% piercing. So getting additional 70% piercing is nice on a big move. To me, this is a definition of nice to have. He's a big damager. It's very nice to have, and so on. But that's really all I would say about it. Definitely, to me, definition of a nice to have. Just good damage on a good damaging character. All right. The next one here is the Ghost Rider Basic. And, I did this one. because he's a striker and he's going to be doing extra damage on his ISO attacks. And it's a bleed. So to me, I considered, by the way, having this higher just because it's a bleed attack. I think having the higher damage, if you've been following me for a while, I like because you get a higher damage multiplier when you have the T4 and a bleed attack. So I like it. I like that. I think it's underrated damage. So, this, not only am I getting bleed for 2 turns, but I'm getting it a higher damage multiplier. So to me, this is very nice to have, is where I'd put it. All right, so now this next one here, the Dr. Voodoo Basic, moves up this list if you're using them outside of war, okay? But this is a war list. And the reason it's nice is because he basics a lot, particularly outside of war. So in war, he's going to get ability energy. But outside of war, he's just going to be basicking a ton because his ult is super long cooldown. And every time he does, instead of healing his allies by 5%, he heals them by 8%. Which over time is important, particularly if this is your only sustain and you're trying to use them outside of war. But even in war, it's nice because you will be basicking with this character. A lot of times, particularly against Heroes for Hire, the battle doesn't last long. But that we'll have different teams in the future, and in any event, just getting a little additional healing can potentially mean the difference between victory and defeat. It's a nice to have. All right, the last. Nice to have on here is the Elsa Special. The Elsa Special, is just some additional damage. So basically, it's 120% damage. Sure, it's nice. More damage than this team's nice to have, but it's just slightly above okay to me. Now, I did not put it as a meh or whatever. Like what I'll sometimes do, because I do think it's nice to have, but. That's all I would say about it. I mean, damage is always nice in this team, and sometimes you need a lot of it. It's a team that's a little janky to run. So I'm not saying it's not worth putting on, but it's just very low priority. All right, let's talk about positioning and about the 5th character. So in my opinion, the best 5th character on this team is Namor. It just seems to work the best. It's the most consistent. This is on war offense only. And war offense only, Namor has a fantastic ability, his ultimate, that strips all positive effects from the enemy and also reduces their speed bar by quite a bit. I think it's by 50%. I'm going to pull him up in a minute. I will say that if you use Namor, who's kind of a plug and play character that does not have a home, you do need these. You do want to have us in need, but you really want to have the T4 and his passive and his ultimate. So here's the ultimate move. He's going to crit on everybody, clear all positive effects from the target, and reduce the speed bar of all targets by 50%. That's just such a big move that it gives the Dark Hunters team a lot of work, a lot of time to get their work done and kill Heroes for Hire, for example. Heroes for Hire has tons of positive effects. Stripping all those is big, and just getting this 50% speed bar reduction just gives them time to do their thing. So I think, and then this, by the way, this one just gives additional damage, armor, and gives him offense up, so it's 50% higher. So to me, that is what makes the best sense as a 5th based on my testing and testing of others. This is the positioning I would use. If you do, you could potentially put Namor here if you want him to get some barrier. You could put him next to Voodoo. But to be very blunt, all I want Namor to do is get his ult off and then go away. I don't really care what he does. Once he uses his ult, he's just sort of a decoy or cannon fodder or sacrificial lamb. So I have him all the way over here just because, whatever. He can be over here. Voodoo I have on the end just so he gets a little less damage. You could do this differently. I could see people saying, no, I want to put Namor next to Voodoo so he gets barrier. In terms of ISO class, to me, it's a no-brainer that you want Ghost and Morbius as strikers. They are doing bleeds, and that getting additional damage to make the bleeds stronger, I think, is helpful and important. I have Dr. Voodoo as skirmisher. I've tested him as healer as well. Outside of war offense, you want him as a healer, but in war, he's better as a skirmisher. and you frankly want to source a skirmish of vulnerables anyway. Elsa's your other source as a raider, and she does well as a raider because all of her attacks are multi-hits, including her basic, right, which has several different chances to crit. So to me, she's definitely a raider. Ghost Rider and Morbius are definitely a striker. I spent some time testing different possibilities with Voodoo, but it seems like pretty much everybody's landed on him as a skirmisher in War. In terms of gear priority, you really want to have a big Morbius, big Voodoo. I mean, at the level I'm at, you need these two at G15, Gear Tier 15, and people are bringing them to Gear Tier 16. Ghost Rider's also great. I mean, just because he's additional damage, he's sort of bonus damage here in Elsa, but they're just kind of straight damage. So to me, it's Morbius, Voodoo, Ghost, and Elsa in terms of gear priority. And that's basically the list. This is everything you need to know about this team. I've got the infographic below. What's my verdict on this team? I think it's a good team, but I think that it is, it's above average, but it's definitely not the best of War offense. It's already kind of not, it's already sort of not at the top of the meta, even on its release. And I think it's going to need a fifth member to really bring it to another level. I assume that Scopely's going to try to sell that to us at some point. Although, when that is, I don't know. But of course, because of the Pestilence event, I think a lot of you are going to be building this team, even if you're ordinarily not that excited about War offense. All right, guys, if you like this video, smash that like button, subscribe to this channel. If you have comments, questions, cheers, happy, sad, angry, mad, you can put it below or go to my Discord. That's linked below. You can also go to my Twitch stream. That is linked below too.